Hey gaming fans, so today I have kind of an odd deck. This is a Goblin deck for Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's kind of based on a lot of the cards that are Goblin oriented and kind of, you know, use their effects and try to maximize the attack powers and all that stuff. So anyways, let's get down to the deck. It's kind of a weird deck that I kind of played a while ago, and I decided to put it back together. So the first one is Goblin King. This card cannot be attacked if there's another fiend type monster on the field, on your side of the field, and its attack and defense of this card become the number of fiend monsters on the field, so on your opponent's side as well, times 1,000. So this guy can get really big. So this is kind of what the deck is sort of going around, you know, trying to build around his effect. And then for the other goblin, I got Scrounging Goblin. So this is kind of what inspired me to want to build this deck in the first place. If this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, they can hand you one card from their hand to negate this effect. Otherwise, you get to add a Goblin card from your deck to your hand, except Goblin Fan, which is not really that great of a card anyways. But anyways, you'd probably grab things like your Goblin King or one of the other many Goblin cards out there. So he's pretty good. He's 1,000 attack and 2,000 defense, so he's not too bad. The next one is Goblin Elite Attack Force. It's this right here. So this is kind of like Goblin Attack Force, the original Goblin Attack Force, but he's got defense. So he's 2,200 attack and 1,500 defense, and much like the original Goblin Attack Force, when he attacks, he goes to defense mode. But because of his defense, hopefully he'll stick around. But anyways, yeah, so I decided to put three of those guys in there, and they're fiends, which is really important because this helps your Goblin King. Of course, I got two of the original Goblin Attack Force. Problem is, these guys are warriors, so they don't really help with your Goblin King, and they have 0 defense. But they are 2,300 attack, so they can attack quite a few things and run them over. And hopefully, you know, even though they go to defense mode until the end of your next turn, pretty much, that's okay, as long as you're able to take out something. Another goblin I have in here is Goblin Black Ops, which is a beast warrior. So again, it's not a fiend, but it's sort of like Goblin Attack Force and Goblin Elite Attack Force, except this guy can attack directly, so he's pretty cool. I mean, that's 1,300 attack directly, and then he turns to defense mode. The other goblin I have in here, this is another warrior, and that's Goblin Decoy Squad. When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you could draw one card. And of course, he also changes to defense mode. He's 1,000 attack, so you got to boost his attack. Some of these ones you're going to have to boost their attack, which I have cards that will do that. Then I got Goblin Marauding Squad, which is a beast warrior. And when this card declares an attack, your opponent cannot activate cards or effect. So you can kind of attack with him and not worry about things like Mirror Force or whatever. If this card attacks, it's changed to defense mode and all that other crap. You know, unfortunately, that's the theme of these guys, so you kind of have to, like, build around that. And then the last monster I have, which is an odd choice, and I'll explain this one later, Marionette Mite. He's an insect, and by discarding this card from your hand to the graveyard, you can take control of one face-up fiend or zombie type monster from your opponent's side of the field until the end of turn. So it's kind of like a change of heart in a monster form. So that's it for the goblins and the monsters. So it's quite a hefty stack of monsters there. So let's get to the spells. So I got 1 for 1, and really there's only one target for 1 for 1, and that's your Goblin King. But you're going to want to see this guy anyways, so that's what your target's going to be. A very important card in this deck, Moon Mirror Shield. This one, I originally had this at 2, and I decided to bump it up to 3. So the equipped monster, if the equipped monster battles an opponent's monster, during damage calculation, the equipped monster's attack and defense, that's an important one there, become equal to the attack or defense, whichever is higher, of the opponent's battling monster, plus 100. So this is what's going to allow all these monsters to kind of live, and also going to allow these ones that have like 1,000 attack, like Scrounging Goblin, to push through and get his effect and destroy a monster. But also boosting up their defense to make sure that they could survive on those turns, bearing that your opponent doesn't destroy this card. And then I threw in a Psychic Blade, because this is a pretty powerful equipped spell. Pay life points in multiples of 100, maximum 2,000, and equipped to a monster, it gains attack and defense equal to that amount. So again, it's going to boost up the defense, and hopefully your 0 defense monsters will stick around. Then for your Goblin King, from some support for him, Fires of the Doomsday. So if you recall, this guy can't be attacked if there's another fiend on the field. This puts 2 fiend tokens out there. They're not big, but at least it'll prevent him from being attacked. Or you could just pump these guys out, and that's 2,000 more attack that this guy's going to get. So it's just going to boost him up. So there's many different plays you can do with this card. And of course, I threw in some Mystical Space Typhoons just to deal with back row. And another one, Creature Swap. So you can Creature Swap any of your cards that got turned to defense mode that you don't need anymore, or that are going to be stuck in defense mode, then you can run them over with whatever monster you steal. Of course, you can Creature Swap over one of your fiends and Marionette Might it back for 1 turn. There's a lot of different things you could do with a Creature Swap. And of course, your tokens from the Fires of the Doomsday. You could, turn a token to attack mode, send it over to your opponent's side of the field, take their whatever monster they give you, and run it over. So that's my spell lineup. And for the traps. So just to keep with the Goblin theme and the fact that you're going to be doing a lot of damage to your opponent, Robin Goblin. It'll just nip some cards out of your opponent's hand, and hopefully slow them down. I mean, it's not really needed. You could definitely swap that out for Mirror Forces or whatever you want, or any other traps that you think are better, Solemn Judgments. But I just thought it'd be fun to stay with the Goblin theme. I mean, this is not an ultra competitive deck by any stretch of the imagination. And this one too, another kind of important card, DNA Surgery. And this is what I was thinking with the Marionette Mites, because you're going to call Fiend, and you're going to turn all monsters on the field into Fiends, including your opponent's monsters. Now you can steal whichever one you want, and then you got to figure out what you want to do. Do you want to attack with it? If you're gonna play it in an extra deck, which I did not build for this deck, but you could build one. You could use Link monsters, you could use Xyz, you could use a bunch of different things. Depending on what you think your opponents are going to play, steal their monster and do whatever. And then the other thing, of course, is Goblin King. So all the monsters now on the field. So if your opponent had 4 or 5 monsters on the field, this guy is going to be huge because they're all going to be fiends, and it's going to add to his attack. So whether you spring this on your opponent's turn when they go to attack this guy, or whatever, you can just flip it on your turn and just deal with their their biggest monsters. And of course, we have a lot of defense mode monsters that go into defense mode. So Zero Gravity, which changes the battle positions of all face-up monsters on you and your opponent's side of the field. So this can come in handy with cards like let's say Scrounging Goblin, which is in attack mode. He will get turned to defense mode, which is 2,000 defense, which will hopefully allow him to survive. Or if your opponent attacks, you can switch your Goblin Attack Force that was already in defense mode back to attack mode, switch all their monsters to defense mode. On your turn, hopefully you can run them over. Now keep in mind, this is going to do nothing to Link monsters because they can't go in defense mode, but that's, here or there, you're going to have to deal with that. Powerful Rebirth is the last one. I decided to throw in some kind of, Monster Reborn style card. And I like about this is you can actually bring it into defense mode if you need to. And it's pretty much will target any monster in your graveyard, including your kings, anything that pretty much you play. Yeah, so that's it. This is kind of a fun deck that I decided to build. I built this a while ago. I don't think I used the DNA Surgery combo in here in the past, and definitely not the Marionette Mite, so these are kind of new ideas that I had. But I always like to hear your thoughts and what you think of the deck, and what you would add, what you would take away. It's kind of a fun deck. It's really just meant to, troll your opponent with a bunch of goblins, and just have some fun. And it's got some draw power and some search power. Anyways, hope you liked the video. Throw some comments down below. Hope you subscribe. Talk to you later.